Welcome to another session of Stelmo's Rants and Raves. I'm Stelmo. Let's jump right into this. Sometimes you read these things and it's just so infuriating, so very infuriating. And here's the headline. TikToker fired from job after praying for Pambandi to suffer, quote, worst case of cancer anybody's ever seen, end quote. It's just, it's horrific, but people need to wake up. The Democrats Socialist of America Party, which goes with a big D in front of their names, anybody who can see clearly can see that the radicals have taken over this party, and that makes more of the radicals open up their mouths. What do you think happens, or let me back up and say, if America were to fall to these socialists, because once they're controlling all the levers of power, gone is this country, okay? And there's no more chances left because these are not sane, rational people. They're ideologues who will go to any and all extremes. And we're seeing how much they cheat, how much they steal. And historically, if you look at people like, let's start naming some names. Fidel Castro, Raul Castro, Che Guevara, Joseph Stalin, Vladimir Lenin, Mao Zedong, Zhou Enlai, and the list goes on and on. Goes on and on. Idi Amin, let's not forget him with the toot toot makoot. That's a hard one to forget. But what do? They take their opposition, and when they say opposition, they just don't mean the people in the opposite political party. They mean every and anybody that might not 100% agree with them all the time. Well, what happens is these, if they find anything at all in your background, they send you for immediate mortuary services. Millions and millions and millions of people over generations have gone to meet their maker. Not necessarily, I'm sure they were glad to meet their maker, but they left a little bit earlier than they had planned. And this is well documented. People can't dispute this. So I have to wonder, when I see these Republicans voting on Democratic issues, I'm saying, are you for real? And I know some of these people, I tend to think what they think is I'm giving them help and I'm voting with them and stuff, that I'm going to be saved. No. I guess you can be delusional. And here's the sad part about it. It's not just these people that pay that ultimate price, but their families as well. And so I really wonder, look, I know the United States really hasn't any upheaval since the Civil War. But that's not saying that there aren't a lot of people wanting it right now. And the sad reality is the number of people wanting it are going to increase each and every month, because as inflation goes up and up and people have less and less money that buys less and less things, they have less bills that they can pay, so they have to either get rid of vehicles or whatever the situation is. A lot of people are going to be homeless. They're ripe to join these organizations. And I think that's what you're seeing in New York. I think it's the fact that you have a lot of bottom or lower class individuals in New York. And hey, I empathize with them. Life is not fun when you're in that condition. So when somebody comes in and tells you, hey, we're going to equalize this all out, and there's going to be free this and free that and free this. Nothing is free in life, but unfortunately, so few people realize that. People buy this. I see marketing scams all the time, and I just shake my head. And I say, I don't know how people fall this. And some of them, some of the more egregious ones, I won't even use their service or buy their product because I say, you know what? They think I'm an idiot. And if they think I'm an idiot, I just am not going to buy their product. Now, I may well be an idiot, right? But it's not their place to be saying it. And I don't know. I just... Every time, and it's not like, this goes all the way back to, what was her name? Kathy Crosby, I think is her name. She had the severed upper cranial part of DJT's upper part, here up. And, people then attribute, oh, was it a sick joke? No, it was not a sick joke. That's what they want to see. And if you're thinking otherwise, you're delusional. You're delusional. You may be one who's going to pay the... when you look especially Russia and China at what happened in those dark eras, I'm going to call them. You had, like I say, millions upon millions upon millions of lost souls gone unnecessarily. And why is that? Because socialists know deep down that their policies are never going to work. Margaret Thatcher said it best when she said, the problem with socialism is sooner or later you're going to run out of other people's money to spend. The Pilgrims was a socialistic experiment that failed. Every time socialism has tried, it has failed. Oh, yeah, it may prosper right in the beginning. And why is that? Because, well, you see already in the news, they got the billionaires in their sight. And, the ironic part is more billionaires contribute to the Democrats, Socialists of America than the Republican Party. And if they think they're going to be spared and allowed to keep their money because they're on the same side, then, oh boy, there's, I live down here in Florida. I happen to have an iceberg for sale down there in the Everglades because I'm selling it cheap, too, if you want to buy it. Because you believe the nonsense that they're spewing, you're going to find out, and you're going to find out at a time when the time to do something will have already passed you by in your rearview mirror. You have to get out on these things. And I'm just truly amazed at how quiet Americans could be with such things happening. And when you look at what's going on in the world today, it's really scary. There's so many things that I can't figure out. And I'm terrified of these socialists. I know who they're coming for if they ever consolidate power. And they're much closer to consolidating power than most people want to give them credit for. One of my biggest complaints that I have about the Republican Party, and I have a lot, but the Republican Party is always reactive, whereas the Democratic Party is proactive. So you can bet that while on one hand, the Democrats, Socialists of America are crying and sulking over these redistricting battles that they're losing, you can bet that they're dreaming up something else, because that's always how it is. There's something new that no one's expecting, and they're going to figure it out, and they're going to do it. I still wonder. I have never heard one person yet explain to me, why did we ever do away with those old voting machines that worked so flawlessly? Aha, that's why we got rid of them. And people have been quiet. And I live here in a red state. And unfortunately, there are blue companies and corporations here. And they're doing a lot of sabotage. And these red politicians are, I'm not saying they're allowing it, but they're closing their eyes to it. When these politicians get elected, especially at the state and federal level. They get put on committees where they have oversight over certain things. And here we're finding out that billions and billions and billions of dollars have been stolen under their watch. What were they looking at? What were they doing? How come it takes independent journalists to find this fraud? And the amount of the fraud is astronomical. And that's another reason why I believe that our financial system, I think it's in collapse. I don't know when it's finally going to do its final last laps or so, but I think it's inevitable. Because, you know, in order to be paying off all these other people, I mean, you have to be always creating more and more money. And that's what was happening. That's what we're finding out now. Billions and billions of dollars. And, you know, I've been learning something else that I want to talk about here. And I'm going to be brief on this because I think I'm going to do my next video on this. But, you know, I always considered Israel our ally. But now I'm beginning to have second doubts. I really am beginning to have second doubts. There are too many things that I'm reading about in different articles and stuff. And when I look at this stuff, it makes no sense. None whatsoever. You know, just one quick example. There's this, an Israeli who was arrested and charged with a number of federal crimes. He had illegal firearms on him. He had several different forms of identification. And what happens? The feds drop the charges. They say, yeah, nothing here. We're going to let you go. And that's what happens when a country, and the reason I'm bringing this up here is because, see, I have a problem when I find out about the Democrats illegally sending money to some, whatever they want to call it, and the NOG or whatever it is, and then they funnel the money back. I don't like that. It's illegal. Well, I also have a problem when we lend money to a country like Israel and they funnel the money back to our politicians. Can somebody explain to me what the difference is there? That's the question. I hope if anyone listens to this, I hope that you can try to give me an answer. What is the difference? Or is there a difference? It seems to me they're the same way. They're taking our money and not necessarily using it for our benefit, and that's problematic. Well, for now, I'm going to close. I've done enough ranting here for this episode, and so I'm going to close. I wish you all well. Y'all have a great day. Stay safe. It's a crazy world out there. Bye-bye.